Here's a question most coffee drinkers have never actually asked themselves. What does specialty even mean? Not premium, not artisan, not a label some marketing team slapped on a bag because it sounded nice. It's a real, measurable standard. And once you understand it, you'll never look at a bag of coffee the same way again. So, let's start with the coffee most people grew up drinking. The stuff in the red can, or the pre-ground bag from the grocery store shelf. That coffee is called commodity coffee. And commodity coffee is traded, priced, and evaluated almost entirely on one thing: quantity. It gets bought in massive bulk lots, blended together from dozens or even hundreds of different farms, and priced based on a global commodity market the same way corn or wheat gets priced. Nobody's asking which farm it came from. Nobody's tasting it before it goes in the blend. It just has to clear a very low bar of not defective. Specialty coffee works completely differently. Here's the actual definition from the organization that grades this stuff professionally. For a coffee to be called specialty, it has to score 80 points or higher on a 100-point scale, evaluated by certified tasters called Q graders. They're cupping it, that's the technical term for a structured tasting process, and scoring things like aroma, flavor, acidity, body, and aftertaste. Anything below 80, it gets sold as commodity coffee, no matter how it was grown. That one number changes everything downstream, because to consistently score above 80, a farm can't just harvest a big pile of cherries and hope for the best. They have to pick only ripe cherries, by hand, often multiple passes through the same trees over weeks. They have to process the coffee carefully, controlling fermentation, drying it evenly, protecting it from mold and defects. And the roaster on the other end has to treat that coffee like it's actually worth something, instead of just cooking it dark enough to hide the flaws. That's the real difference. Commodity coffee is optimized to be cheap and consistent at scale. Specialty coffee is optimized to taste like something. Now, here's where it gets interesting for you, as someone just getting into this. Specialty coffee almost always tells you where it came from. Not just Colombia printed on a bag as a vague marketing gesture, often the actual farm, the region, sometimes the elevation the beans grew at, and how they were processed. That's called traceability, and it's not just a nice detail, it's a signal. A roaster willing to tell you exactly which farm your coffee came from is a roaster confident enough in that coffee to put their reputation behind it. Compare that to a bag that just says 100% Arabica and nothing else. That phrase sounds impressive if you don't know better, but Arabica is the base-level species used in the vast majority of all coffee, specialty or not. It's not a quality marker. It's the floor, not the ceiling. So, when you're standing in front of two bags of coffee, here's what to actually look for. A roast date, not a best by date, an actual roast date, ideally within the last few weeks. A specific origin, a country at minimum, ideally a region or farm. And some mention of how it was processed, like washed or natural. If a bag has all three of those things, you're very likely looking at real specialty coffee. If it has none of them, you're probably looking at commodity coffee, wearing a nicer bag. Here's the part that surprises most people, though. Specialty coffee isn't actually about spending more to get fancier coffee. It's about spending your money on coffee, where every step the farmer, the processor, the roaster, was accountable for quality instead of just volume. Sometimes that costs more. Often it's not as dramatic a difference as you'd expect, especially once you're buying beans instead of paying cafe markup. And the payoff is real. Specialty coffee, brewed even moderately well, tastes noticeably different: brighter acidity, more distinct fruit or floral notes, a cleaner finish. None of the flat bitterness people associate with coffee as a category. A lot of people who say they don't like coffee have actually just never had specialty coffee brewed properly. They've had commodity coffee, over-extracted, sitting on a burner for 2 hours. So if you're just starting out here, you don't need a fancy setup, and you don't need to memorize extraction theory on day one. You just need to start buying coffee that actually tells you where it came from, when it was roasted, and how it was processed. That's it. That's the entry point. Everything else, the grind size, the water temperature, the brewing method, all of that is about unlocking what's already inside a good bag of beans. But none of it matters if the beans weren't worth unlocking in the first place. Get the coffee right first. Everything else will build from there.